Well, jeepers! You're listening to Smash or Pass.
Welcome back to another episode on the JayBee and Milly channel. I am JayBee and with me is Milly.
Hi.
We also have Rhianna.
Hi.
Smash.
Hello.
And joining us today for a special interview is Rick Copp, who wrote not only The Witch's Ghost, but also Mecha, Mutt, Menace. And we've got a lot of questions concerning their career today. And of course, Scooby-Doo, notably The Witch's Ghost. So welcome to the show, Rick. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
So our first question for you is, you've been involved in many aspects of the film industry, such as writing, producing, and also acting. But starting from, your early career or even childhood, was your dream one of them and perhaps that led to another one? Or did you always plan on being a jack of all trades?
No, from a very young age, I grew up in Maine where it's very cold. So I was looking for an excuse to stay in during recess in the winter. So I wrote a play based on Gilligan's Island, the 60s show about the castaways, and I cast myself as the rich man, Mr. Howell, and then I cast all my friends, and I just kind of got the bug after that of writing for television, and so that was kind of always my goal. So I got myself to New York University, and then from there I got a job with in children's programming, which actually, weirdly enough, led me to the Golden Girls, and that's what got me out to Los Angeles.
Nice.
That's amazing. And as you said, that you as well that there's so many different avenues that you've explored, from writing to acting. Is there one of those avenues you wish you could have explored a little bit more, perhaps spent a little bit more time on?
Well, the acting thing came very late. I was writing a sci-fi movie for Starz. I don't know if you know the cable network Starz. It's actually in Denver, and based in Denver, and it was called The Adventures of Captain Zoom in Outer Space, and I'd co-written it with my writing partner David Goodman, and it was a kind of a Galaxy Quest before Galaxy Quest, where this planet's in trouble and they bring this hero who turns out to be a TV actor, and I played the sidekick Happy with the funny giggle on the TV show on Earth, and it kind of, I got the bug after that, but I didn't really have a lot of opportunities. I'd act here and there, but and it wasn't until I did a web series about 10 years now that I actually really acted a lot more than I ever had. But it's always something I've enjoyed, and I'd love to do the stage and all of that. And as I'm getting older, I'm settling into that old character, old guy roles,
Oh, that's so fun. And we've also seen, over on IMDb, that in 2019 you won the, I'm gonna biff how you say this. Is it
Queerty.
The Queerty? Okay.
Queerty. No, I had no clue either.
Perfect. For your best, the web series for Where the Bears Are.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of celebrating the talent of the LGBTQ community. How do you think the attitudes of that have kind of changed over the years?
It's been huge, and I am if you ask me, I love Scooby. I love everything I've ever done. The thing I'm most proud of is that show Where the Bears Are, because it did provide entertainment to an underserved community, which is a subsect of the gay community. So it was like, and now I travel and I go all over the world, and I, certain bars, people know who I am, and it's just been a joy. The stories I've heard from people, in Middle Eastern countries who watch our show secretly, and it's been amazing. And so that award was that was in our last season. We got it on our first season, and we got it in our last season. So it's kind of like a nice thing. And that particular award, it's the fans vote. So our fans came out en masse to make sure we won. And
awesome.
So yeah, and when I was working in Hollywood at Universal, I had an overall deal, and I kept pushing, a gay heart-to-heart, a gay detectives, because obviously murder mysteries are my favorite thing, and I was told over and over again, it's too soon. America's not ready, and I heard that for years, and so finally to be able to do this show that lasted so long and had an impact with the community. That was the greatest thing I'm the most proud of anything I've ever done, even though it's silly and ridiculous,
It definitely deserved the award, and I'll admit, like, hands down, my favorite genre is murder mysteries too. They're just so captivating. And I guess expanding on your writing career, we've seen that you've been involved in a series of books recently called Poppy Harmon and the Backstabbing Bachelor under the pen name Lee Hollis, which we believe is your pen name you share with your sister. Is this correct?
Yes, it is. Actually, Hollis is my middle name. My grandfather was named Hollis, who was from England. Yay. And my sister's middle name is Lee. And so I had written a series of gay mystery novels years ago, and the same editor came to me and said, oh, you should write a series of, my sister had a cooking column in our home state of Maine. And so I kind of developed this character based on her. And so I write the books or the mysteries and she writes the columns and recipes. But since then, that series, we're now, our 15th book is coming out this year, but I've kind of taken the name and run with it on my own. So I have two other series, the Poppy Harmon Mysteries, set here in Palm Springs where I live, and then the Maya and Sandra Mysteries, which is another series, which have nothing to do with the Lee part, but I just kept the name because, you know, I didn't want to confuse people.
Wow, that is fantastic. So I was going to ask about the meaning of that name, so thank you so much for expanding upon that. But in terms of your attitudes into the writing process, is there any, like, do you approach the writing differently when you are Rick Copp versus when you're writing as Lee Hollis?
Well, yes, I don't know. This could be very insulting, but I say I have two major audiences right now, or recently. I have big hairy gay men, and I have women over 60 with cats. So, so those are my two core audiences, and you know they expand from there. But yeah, the people who read my books are very devoted, cozy mystery readers. I mean, Agatha Christie is my hero. I've read every single book she's read twice, you know, I've written twice. And I just love that genre. I subscribe to BritBox, you know, I love the British murder mystery. So it was always my dream. I mean, I kind of found my way into situation comedy and other genres, but that was always my wheelhouse, my sweet spot, whatever you want to call it. And so everything I do usually comes out of something like that, from that genre. Which is why Where the Bears Are. No one, like everyone looked at me funny when I said, well, let's do a show about gay hairy men, but let's put a murder in it. And everyone's like, oh, but it ended up drawing in straight people because everyone wanted to know who the killer was. So, so that was kind of an advantage.
That's amazing. And you know, you were saying in terms of the books and things, have you done any events like signings where you've got to meet fans of the books? I mean, like you're saying, your two fan categories, it could be quite interesting to do events like that, but have you ever, you know, done something like that? Do you have any good memories from them?
Yes, what I love about the Lee Hollis is when I show up, a lot of people are expecting a woman. And because all of the characters in all my book series, you know, under the Lee Hollis name, I did a male lead under my own name, but are women, and so they expect a woman, and so I love it to see the faces. We're like, oh, you know, and so I love doing book signings. I do a lot of them, and you know, interestingly enough, the pandemic, as awful as it was, allowed me to connect like we are doing now, connect with fans at events through Zoom, and you know, it was revolutionary in a way. And I've been having contact with so many more fans than I ever did who read my books. You know, with me at the Bear Show, it's like I can go into a gay bar and people will know who I am because I'm in that show. So that's, you know, if it gets me a free drink, it's a win. So.
Oh gosh, that's certainly true. And you know, it's something that post-pandemic's now more of an option, like you say, moving from Zoom to more kind of face-to-face events and things again as well. And you know, speaking of the wonders of Zoom, we actually managed to interview Morgan Baden, who combined the two things and wrote a Scooby-Doo book,
oh, yes.
and working on a second one as well. So is that something that you think you'd be interested in, you know, combining the love of Scooby, bit of a mystery and that kind of thing?
Absolutely. I mean, I can't wait to read his book. So I would love my crack at it. You know, it's funny because it has been a while since I've done animation and cartoon, Scooby and all of that, and now I've started a new job recently where I'm doing animation again, which is really fun. And so yes, but I would love to do there was a novel that came out that was about, it was not the Scooby gang, but it was like they were kind of based on them, and it was a much darker take on it, which was kind of interesting. I forget the name of the book, but yeah, I would love something like that to take those iconic characters. And
I think it was called like Meddling Kids or something. I think we saw it somewhere. I'm not.
Oh my gosh, I did a pilot back in the 90s called Meddling Kids. Yeah, about a teenage rock band. I kind of combined Josie and the Pussycats with Scooby-Doo with live action. Never got made.
That's a shame.
Yeah, but that was the name of the book. That was the name of the book. Yes, yeah.
Mm-hmm. So, with the Daphne and Velma book, there's an implication that Thorn from the Hex Girls and Velma might be going into a relationship going forward. What are your thoughts on that?
I would love that to be the topic of the book I write.
Really? Yeah.
It's so funny because I just saw that when and I didn't think Thorn, that was an interesting one. I thought it might be one of the other two, but
so, and then with the Scooby franchise being full of all these different types of implications, there's a very clear deleted scene from the original theatrical live action movie from 2002 with Daphne and Velma having a kiss. Do you think if they had kept that and included it, would have been a positive progression?
I think it would have gotten a lot of attention at that point. But I think anything is a positive progression, even if it has a negative reaction. Right. I mean, I remember this TV show from the 80s called 30 something, and they did a male kiss, and it was like this huge controversy, but it sparked a discussion that moved things forward. And so I think anything is a progressive positive step forward. And why not? That would have been great. And then the straight men would have loved it too.
Right.
I definitely agree with you with the positive progression, because I think through from TV to film, everything, it's all progressing in such a positive way, and it's really nice to see that diversity in all different characters. And I guess going more into your history with Scooby-Doo, did you happen to watch Scooby-Doo growing up?
Oh yes, I mean that's why I was so excited to work on that movie, because I mean I'm 57 years old, so I was 6 years old or 5 years old when Scooby first premiered, and I remember watching it. Now, full disclosure, I loved Scooby. I was obsessed with Josie and the Pussycats, with the girl band and the cats and everything, So that one was the one that, and I know this question's coming, but that's how the Hex Girls were born, basically. But yeah, no, I was a huge Scooby fan, and I loved, especially the Scooby-Doo movies with the guest stars and Sonny and Cher and all that. I was like, blew my mind that the primetime stars of the time were animated and working with Scooby to solve a mystery. That just blew my mind as a kid.
Do you remember if there's a specific movie or series that you enjoyed the most? I know you mentioned about the Scooby-Doo movies. So is that one of your favorites?
Yeah, the Scooby-Doo movies, this is so silly, and people are gonna go, what? But I don't even know this. There was an actress named Sandy Duncan in the 70s, and she guest starred on the Scooby-Doo movies, and being an actress in Hollywood. And I remember Daphne took her place, and they were wearing. And I just remember, I wanted to go to Hollywood so badly as a kid from Maine, and I wanted to live underneath the Hollywood sign, which I did, by the way, and eventually. That episode, and also the Trouble Under the Big Top from season 1 with the hypnotist and Daphne on the unicycle, and that really stayed with me too. Plus the Frozen Caveman, I love that too.
So I have to intervene really quickly. Since you brought up the Sandy Duncan episode, did you see kind of the sequel episode they did recently with her?
No,
Yeah, they
there
brought-
is. Oh my God.
Yeah, they brought her back and kind of continued the story on from there.
You are kidding. In what series? In what series?
Scooby-Doo and Guess Who?
Scooby-Doo and Guess Who? Okay, I'm gonna look it up. Hopefully it's on HBO Max.
It is. Yep.
Okay, good. Oh, good. I know what I'm doing after this. All right.
Yeah.
Oh wow, that is absolutely incredible. I mean,
I had no
let us know your
idea,
thoughts
Smash.
on
I had
that.
no idea.
Yeah, it's a fun one. I really like it.
The other one, of course, was when Josie and the Pussycats and Scooby-Doo all came together.
Yes.
Yeah.
The
Mhm.
only reason it's not my favorite because I recently downloaded it for an airplane flight, to watch. And I was disappointed because the story was so bad. Like I wanted more. It could have been so like that would be my dream is to go back and do the Scooby Josie crossover, but do it good, do it well.
They should do a full movie of that now, and you should write it.
God. Can you imagine? Oh my gosh.
I mean, like Josie and the Pussycats. I think like by the time this interview goes out, we will have announced this. But we spoke to Craig Titley recently, who wrote a draft for the live-action Scooby-Doo movie way back before the 2002 film. And in an early draft of that, he really wanted to include them as quite a big part of that script. So it's kind of like every time we get close to a kind of monumental crossover between the two, something just seems to get in the way.
Yeah, I don't know why they've never rebooted. Like Scooby's been rebooted so many times and they never rebooted Josie. I tried. I like in the early 2000s, I did all my best to try to do it with Warner because I worked with Warner Brothers, but there was a rights issue or something like they owned the original show, but the music and I don't know what it was, but there was some kind of issue.
I mean, Scooby has quite a big history of special guest stars. Even as Smash was saying, there's like a recent show dedicated to that. But in terms of the core members of Mystery Inc., is there one that stands out to you as being a favorite?
In terms of the Scooby Gang?
Yeah.
Well, I always loved Velma. She was always my favorite. I mean, and as I'm older and I've discovered Pop Beans, Shaggy's kind of like, because he sings kind of like the cool, cool druggy guy. But I always had a soft spot for Velma. And she was the smartest one, and she was unrecognized. Like they didn't quite acknowledge that she's the one really doing all the work. And I love that about her. And of course, I loved kind of the lesbian vibe too. So. But I'd have to say Velma because she was the detective to me. She was, She
definitely knows how to get stuff done in terms of that premise, and it always made me laugh in some of the movies when she'd get annoyed at Fred for taking all the credit, and just that dynamic in general was an awful lot of fun. But in terms of some of the spooks and the monsters, of course, you've mentioned the frozen caveman, but do you have a selection of favorite monsters throughout the years of Scooby?
I'm such an originalist. I always go back to the first season because that was the biggest impression on me was because that was the first time I had ever been exposed to Scooby-Doo. But in terms of like the regular villains, like have they brought a lot of them back? Like have they repeated off and on? Yeah. I almost wrote for What's New Scooby-Doo, but there was a conflict. I couldn't do that. That was but yeah, no, I haven't since Mecha Menace. I haven't done anything. And first of all, I'm impressed you even know that because it was like released as this special video. It wasn't even aired or anything.
Okay, Smash has got it.
Oh my gosh, there it is. Yeah.
The keeper of records.
It's actually one of my favorite ones to rewatch. And my dogs, they cuddle up with me a lot when I watch Scooby. And as soon as that one's on TV, they'll be sat watching it with me.
Yeah, of course. I bet they would.
I guess while we're talking about Scooby characters, one that I'd like to get your opinion on, and a lot of the earlier kind of Scooby mysteries, that at least ones that were kind of went straight to DVD, were Scrappy was quite a large feature in them. Was that ever a discussion for Witch's Ghost? Was it a character that you particularly liked? Because it's certainly one that I think Warner Brothers has kind of insisted doesn't make an appearance anymore.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I never had a visceral reaction to Scrappy. I never disliked him or liked him. I thought, okay, he was never going to be a part of Witch's Ghost just because he wasn't really in my brain, and so I remember plotting out Witch's Ghost with my writing partner David, and it was like and I was insistent that we have a girl band. So I wanted that, you know, the Hex Girls. So we had so many characters. I can't even imagine in what context we would have added Scrappy. Because at that point, there'd only been one direct-to-video Scooby movie. It was Zombie Island. Zombie Island was first, yeah. And so we were the second. And so I was trying to stick to the formula as much as possible, the original formula.
That's amazing.
Which we blew open when we made the ghost real at the end. So.
Oh my gosh. I mean, that's one thing that you have to love about, you know, like you say, movies like Witches Ghost, because it is a thing now where Warner Brothers do have this formula that every movie has to end with an unmasking, and they've reached this thing where they don't like the monsters to be real. So I don't know if you know, but they recently remade, and I'm probably going way off script, so JayBee, if you've mentioned this later, I do apologize, but like they've like redone Zombie Island and done a Return to Zombie Island movie where they make the monsters not real.
Oh no!
I know,
really?
where they make them real, there's unmaskings. The zombies are not real. The zombies are not real. They like unmask them all. The cat people, there's unmaskings, and it's like, oh no. So I'm just like really happy that they've left Witch's Ghost where it is and like had that, you know, real kind of supernatural element to it, because
I hope so. Yeah, yeah. Because I remember, you know, and I have a bone to pick with Wikipedia, because they say that the producers changed the ending to make the ghosts real from our script. That's not true, because I remember we said, this is a movie, we got to go bigger than an unmasking, we got to make the witches ghost real at the end. And so Wikipedia has that wrong.
How dare they? Let's go change it now.
That's actually interesting. We should have that. Like, that should be the title: Wikipedia exposed, theory debunked. Right here on this interview.
Hey, I've got to ask, like right at the start of that, how did you become involved with the Witch's Ghost as a project?
Well, Warner Brothers was looking for writers for the movies. They were going to want to do another one, and I had done the Brady Bunch movie just a few years prior, and my writing partner and I were friends with a woman by the name of Linda Steiner, who was an executive over at Warner Brothers, and she brought us in, and we just kind of pitched what we would do with the Witches Ghost. I can't even remember if they gave us the title or if we came up with. No, I think we came up with it, and yes, because I wanted to do something with witches, and that's what made the movie so controversial, was that I actually decided to do a pro-Wiccan message, which mothers on Amazon reviews did not appreciate. Because I was like, you know, Wiccan is like about the earth and air and conservation and all that. So no, oh my God, it was like these religious mothers wanted my head.
Oh my gosh. The second you started speaking then, and the words you were using, I was like, oh my gosh, that's the lyrics to a Hex Girls song.
Yeah,
you know, you're like, it's about like earth, wind, fire, and air. I was like singing it in my head.
I wish I wish I could lie and say I wrote all the songs. I had nothing to do with the songs, but but I love the songs. I love them.
Oh, they are good songs. We've been petitioning for a Hex Girls CD for the longest time.
Or even a concert with the voice actors is like, that would just be incredible.
Can I tell you something? I had no idea, like, until, what is it, 2019, I had no clue that the Hex Girls had such a impact. And I was on vacation in Spain, of all places, and I got an email from this reporter from the Independent in London who was doing a 20th or 20th anniversary of Scooby-Doo and the Witches Ghost, and he wanted to interview me, and he said, well, I want to talk about the Hex Girls. I'm like, oh, okay. And he goes, go on Twitter. And so I went on Twitter, and I was stunned, people dressing up, and I was like, my partner will give me credit, because I remember I came up with the whole Hex Girls concept and the characters and everything, and I just was ignorant for 20 years that they had they were so popular.
Little figures of them.
I know.
They recently made them. We've got them in the box.
I love that.
Cute.
It's so amazing.
Oh my gosh.
They've done so much for Hex Girls. Isn't there a really good backpack?
There's like a lounge fly.
Oh
yes.
I love it. Who knew? I was so excited when I found that out. And I go on Twitter all the time and check it out and see the costumes and, you know, all of that. It's amazing to me.
Well, then there's another Scooby-Doo and Guess Who episode you need to watch for they're featured.
I did hear about that one. Yes, yeah.
They're also in Legend of the Vampire.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, yeah. No, you know, it's funny. I get approached by people, you know, who want to do a Hex Girls movie, but it's all tied up. Like, even though I created the characters and the name, you know, Warner Brothers owns it lock, stock, and barrel. I don't even get like residuals, you know, from it. And so it would have to be Warner Brothers that initiated it. Like, I had a producer come to me and say, well, let's do a kind of a ripoff. And I'm like, well, that wouldn't be the same. You know, it just wouldn't be the Hex Girls, you know, so.
Right.
So yeah, but I hope soon, you know, at the time, right after the movie came out, Warner Brothers pretty quickly realized that those characters were breakouts in terms of that movie. And so we had discussions about doing a spin-off series. This was the early 2000s. But it never materialized. It never happened. But they did take the characters and use them in, as you said, you know, in other shows.
So you brought up David Goodman, who's been your partner. And then also Davis Stoy.
Yes.
So they have writing credits in The Witch's Ghost. Did they help you with like the whole story, or did each of you have separate aspects?
David and I were partners long before that movie, and so we had come out to LA, worked on the Golden Girls together, and I mean, he's had a great career. He went on to he's done Family Guy and The Orville, and he's done all these shows. And also, he was the president of the Writers Guild up until last year. So he's done very well. And so he and I were partners for many, many years, and we did the movie together. But I remember we had two different assignments. We were writing a feature animation and then this Scooby-Doo. So I kind of took the lead on the Scooby-Doo and he kind of took the lead on the other one. But so when the Hex Girls article came out a couple years ago, he tweeted something about like, my contribution to the Hex Girls was, sounds good, Rick. Because I was the Josie fanatic, so, you know.
That's amazing.
And Davis Doy was a producer, so when we finished our drafts, he took it and did one last polish on it and changed a few things. And you know what? I thought he made it better, so I hats off to him. So
well, there you go. Okay, so then if I'm understanding correctly, you're a Stephen King fan.
Well, both from Maine, that's for sure. Yeah.
Okay, there you go. Yeah. But there's seems to be, you know, parallels with Stephen King and Ben Ravencroft. So was this an obvious intentional thing?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Like, I mean, the whole New England setting was because I'm from that New England, you know? And yeah, no, we knew that definitely it was a Stephen King. And in fact, I remember at one point, I think I said, can we try to get Stephen King to do the voice? But Tim Curry, though, you can't, you know.
Oh, yeah, right.
Well, it's kind of cool because obviously with Tim Curry being the kind of original face of Pennywise beyond the books, it almost kind of brings it full circle in that regard. But oh my gosh, it's Stephen King voiced Ben Ravencroft. Oh my. I don't know
yeah, they never. I bet if they asked him, he would have done it.
See, beneath the Scooby-Doo collection behind us is JayBee's Stephen King collection. He's like collected all first editions of nearly all the books.
Oh, that's amazing.
Funko Pops, so much stuff.
I need help.
So continuing on with the Stephen King section, if you could see a Scooby crossover with any Stephen King book, which would it be, and how would you see it playing out?
You're gonna think I'm totally sick, but Carrie, it's gonna be Carrie. High school.
Would have been perfect. Yeah.
I mean, it's a no-brainer in my head. You know.
I thought we were gonna go like we recently had Scooby crossing over with Courage the Cowardly Dog. What if he crossed over with Cujo?
Cujo, that's another great one. Well, Scooby and Cujo, that's a great team up, you know, or adversaries, you know. Poor Scooby, I can't imagine him in the same car with Cujo.
No, actually be terrified.
Christine and the Mystery Machine. I mean, it writes itself.
Oh, they've kind of done that actually in an episode of What's New Scooby-Doo. It was like it's an episode called "It's Green, It's Mean, It's the Mystery Machine," and it was where the Mystery Machine was possessed. So
that's great.
Kind of did that.
Yeah.
So you touched on quite a bit about the fact that you introduced the world to the Hex Girls, who, you know, they do remain iconic no matter what, like whatever they do in whichever show or movie. And you brought up about with Josie and the Pussycats, how you kind of base them on that. So can you talk us through the process of coming up with like the idea of the Hex Girls?
Well, yeah, I mean, it was as Rhianna, it was as simple as me saying, I want a Josie girl band in the movie. That's how it was born. Now, and I wanted them to be like, you know, suspects, of course, you know, as they are in the movie. And so it just, they were kind of born out of that. And then I also introduced a little of the Wiccan stuff, which just came out of their names and everything. But I mean, Davis Doy, I have to give him credit for the designs and the, you know, the look and all of that. I had nothing to do with that. And the songs I had nothing to do with. But I had no idea that one of the Go-Go's was, you know, until much later. Jane Whalen was, I had no idea, which was very exciting. And so that's basically how they got into the movie. And then but I always knew that they were going to be good, because maybe in the back of my mind I was hoping they'd get a spin-off.
See, this is the thing, like with the Hex Girls, like you're saying, wanting them to almost be suspects but knowing they wouldn't be. There was kind of an era, let's say, of Scooby movies about, I want to say 10 years ago, where you kind of knew from the start who it was. They did a series, they did like a consistent run of movies where, okay, that one's acting suspicious, it's going to be them. Whereas I don't think any Scooby movie in history has as many twists and turns as Witches Ghost. So from suspecting the Hex Girls to then see, from suspecting the Hex Girls to then like Thorne being the main one that's kind of helping save the day at the end, to Ben Ravencroft being this person that Velma looks up to, who, you know, Velma's normally the one who works things out first, and so for her to be looking up to him, it's like, oh, okay, well, he's going to be fine. And then that twist around, and then for there to be, you know, a second witch after them, asking like the amount of twists and turns, and that it's just, after rewatching the series recently, where it was like really consistent of, oh, they're acting suspicious, it is so refreshing, that movie. It's actually the only one that I owned on DVD from childhood to being like in my 20s. It's the only one I still had when I met you with JayBee, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think that's actually may have been the first one that we watched together. I think it was actually. That's kind of cute.
That's cool. Yeah. I just recently watched it a couple of years ago. I hadn't seen it since, you know, it came out. And I actually was surprised. I'm like, oh, I don't remember that. Oh, okay, you know. Like, but you know, the one thing I did remember the songs when they came. You know, they came on. I'm like, oh yeah. Then I sang them for a week in my head.
I mean, you kind of touched a bit upon this, that you weren't aware about how popular Hex Girls became, or even still were, but when writing them, or when kind of seeing them come into fruition, did at any point you have the concept that in 20 years time people are still gonna know who they are?
No, none. You know, as I'm sure that like the creators of Scooby-Doo thought it would last a couple years and that would be it, that there would, you know, that 50 years later it's still going strong. You know, I'm like, there's just no concept of that. You know, you just don't think that's ever going to happen. You know, because there were a multitude of mystery shows, animated mystery shows like Clue Club and all of these, but Scooby was kind of the first, but you know, it was so popular, but you never, even when in its popularity, you never thought, oh, when I'm in my 50s, it's still going to be a huge thing. You just, yeah, no clue.
And in terms of its longevity and the kind of characterization of them all, do you think that there's a particular, almost a bullet point list or a reason why they've stood the test of time so well?
Well, you know, I think the mystery genre is always strong, you know, a strong genre, but I think it all comes down to the characters. And, you know, you've got this Great Dane that loves to eat and it's very funny, and you have all four characters are very strong in their own right. So I really think the reason is, you know, it's that once you establish characters that people respond to, you know, then you're golden, you know, and so I think the Scooby-Doo, you know, because in fact, like, you know, Josie hasn't had the longevity that Scooby has. People know it, but it's like Scooby is just, they constantly, it's never not on, I mean, somewhere, you know, and I think it was because of the core group and just the iconic, like the Mystery Machine, and there was like things that kids could look at and just and marvel and try to solve the mystery. It was like a puzzle as well. So I think that formula is just a winning formula, but then it all comes down to Scooby himself and the characters, you know.
Yeah, I'd almost argue that the Hex Girls have almost just like gone above Josie and the Pussycats in terms of pop culture at this point, because there are people that are really like, there are people that only remember the Witch's Ghost for the Hex Girls, and they're not gonna watch anything Scooby unless it has the Hex Girls in, or they're only gonna remember the Hex Girls from Scooby. So definitely it's like there's people out there that care about the Hex Girls more than the whole Scooby franchise in total. Like it's really cool to see this, just such avid fandom there.
I'd say it really added to the popularity of Legend of the Vampire as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, Millie, it bothers me that Warner Brothers hasn't seen that yet. Like they can't seem to, like, if they did a Hex Girls animated series for like HBO Max, I think it would be huge. I don't understand why they won't. And then I'm not doing a job interview to like to try to get stuff. Go with someone else. I don't care. But put it out there. I don't understand why they wouldn't put it out there. They own the characters. They could get a kick-ass music producer and do 13 episodes. I mean, everything's being made now. I don't understand why they won't pull the trigger on something like that. You know, because if they just check social media, that, you know, it'll prove everything. You know what you need.
Exactly, and it just seems a while since they last did a Hex Girls movie. I know Smash was saying they were kind of featured in one of the series, Scooby-Doo and Guess Who, but like, I just feel
Incorporated when they recruited Daphne, that was perhaps one of my.
It was a very good episode.
Yeah.
But I feel like
very, very good.
It's almost like overdue another Hex Girls movie. But to be fair, that being said, they are a very prominent feature in the second Scooby-Doo book. The first one that Morgan Baden wrote. So I guess that's somebody else who's kind of acknowledging the popularity of the Hex Girls and kind of bringing it to the forefront again.
Yeah, well, I'll keep my fingers crossed.
One thing I wanted to ask is, have you ever been asked by any fans to sign any Hex Girls merch? Because like we say, there's started to become a lot of things, even quite recently, for the Hex Girls.
Yeah, I've been asked to sign Witch's Ghost DVDs, but never any Hex Girls merch. No. Oh, and let me just say the other thing. I mean, I'm totally openly gay, and I was totally openly gay when I wrote Scooby-Doo and the Witch's Ghost. But I had no idea the queer appeal of the. At the time, I never even thought twice about it. It never entered my mind that they would be these queer icons at all. You know, and I use that word because that's what it is on Twitter. So
no, this is kind of a random side story. A few months ago came out, and so like seeing these characters, I'm like so drawn to them. You know, like I get it.
I think the outsider status maybe of the witches and they have their own thing on, and you know, and they are judged in the Witch's Ghost because they're different, and you know, so I'm sure that plays into it. But at the time, it just never even entered my mind. And now, of course, I take complete credit. Oh yeah, of course, I thought about that. Yeah.
Oh yeah, do it.
Really lie, you know. It was all part of the master plan, you know.
So I guess something to ask you about is, you know, like we said, the Hex Girl songs are iconic. So at what stage of the process were they added in? I know you said you weren't responsible for writing them, but, you know, did you write in the script that you kind of envisaged them to be added in, or any?
Oh, no, they were part of from the very get-go when we sat down to discuss the story of the movie. I knew I had the name, the Hex Girls. I already knew the title, and I knew there were going to be 3 female musicians. And so it was a matter of how would they work into the story. So I went into the project with an agenda of putting the Hex Girls into the movie. And so that's how, and so they were part of the development right from the first meeting.
But I could, sorry. Would I be able to quickly ask, because Billy Ray Cyrus sung Scooby-Doo Rowdy in like the opening sequence of The Witch's Ghost. Did
Yes.
you know that he would be doing that, or did that come in like at the
That
final
came in
stages?
much later. Yeah. Once the script is done, you finish the script months before the show's actually finished because of all the animation and everything, and then so that came in later, and I'm sure they knew that they were going to have the musical version, but I'm sure they brought him in at the very much later in the process. Yeah, much like they did with the Bond films. Like the movie's already shot and they're editing, and then that's when they say, "Oh, we need a song, so who are we going to use this time?"
Yeah.
You know?
Sorry, can't talk. Is there any scrapped or unused concepts that you can remember that you wanted in the movie but didn't make it, or just anything that didn't make it?
No, I mean, it was so long ago. I mean, I'm sure you weren't even born yet when I wrote this movie.
Barely, maybe barely.
Barely, okay. So it's hard for me to remember what didn't make it. But I just not to over repeat, but I just the whole idea was to write a feature-length Scooby-Doo, which it was very rare at that point because all of it in 20-minute episodes up to that point, or the hour Scooby-Doo movies.
Mm-hmm.
So it was like I remember the challenge being, how do we make it big in scope so it justifies being a movie, like a full-length, movie for kids. So we just started drawing in the elements of the real ghost at the end and the Hex Girls and how all that was going to come together. And I'm sorry, I don't remember anything that didn't make it.
No, it's all
Although
good.
I did write an opening about the opening. They were in England and they were doing they were the crown jewels. It was like I envisioned this whole sequence about them being there before they go back to New England. And we scrapped it. We were like, no.
Interesting. Okay, JayBee, I'm so sorry. I'm trying to understand this next question.
Oh no, I guess I can rephrase that here. So something to do with the plot that we were a bit unclear on is whether
I saw this. Oh God, I don't know.
Is if whether Ben Ravencroft was lying to the gang at the start of the movie when he's making out that he didn't know that New Haven or Oakhaven had become a tourist attraction, implying that he hadn't been there for a while, or if he did know.
I suppose I should have rewatched the movie again before this interview. I have no idea. I mean, I'm sure if you pick up any book I've written as Lee Hollis, you'll find a hole somewhere. But yeah, I actually don't remember. It might just be a plot hole that we didn't address. So
that happens.
Yeah, more often than you would think.
Yeah.
Back when we discussed this movie on our like base podcast, we theorized that Thorn may have been either related to Ben Ravencroft or possibly the sorcerer who originally trapped Sarah Ravencroft in the book. Do you think there's any like weight to this theory?
No, just because we never thought about that, or but I welcome any conspiracy theories. It keeps people talking about the movie.
I remember when I was younger and I saw this movie, I wouldn't shut up about it. I just kept talking about it. But there were rumors a couple of years ago about a Hex Girls spin-off movie. And if this were to happen, would you like it to be in the Witch's Ghost kind of continuality? Or has there been a more recent appearance of the Hex Girls that you would like to expand on a bit more?
Well, just ego. My ego says that they should come out of the Witch's Ghost. Definitely. Those are the Hex Girls I know. So, I would definitely take from that movie, but I would love to see a live action Hex Girls movie. I think that would be really cool.
That leads me on to our next question. In that, would you have any type of fan cast, if you can call that, or an ideal casting in mind if they were to do the live action Hex Girls?
So what they would have to be in their 20s, right? Or Oh God, I don't even who's in their 20s.
Let's think about people that can sing that have been in movies. I guess has Ariana Grande been in films? Selena
I love
Gomez
her. Oh,
been in
sure, she'd be
films.
great. Yeah, I don't know. And we're gonna get off this interview, and I'm gonna come up with like 6 names. So I'll email
Right.
you. I'll email you.
Thank you. I mean, that's absolutely perfect.
Well, I know there's that Fan Mystery Incorporated web series on YouTube coming, and they're gonna have the Hex Girls in it.
Oh, good. Oh, good.
Random
I
thought.
still think they deserve their own show, though. I just don't know.
They do. Mhm.
Because then you can create new characters around them, and it'd be
Mhm.
fun. Like their manager and all that. It'd be fun.
In the books, they go to school with Mystery Incorporated, so they're literally just in their year at school, and
Oh, really?
it's when they, whenever there's kind of parties happening within that year group, they're always like setting up a stage at people's house and performing in the gardens and stuff like that. So.
Oh wow, that's
They were
great! I
given a
gotta
new
check out these
dynamic.
books. Morgan.
Baden.
Morgan
Baden. Oh
Oh,
wow.
okay.
Smash
Oh,
has
yeah.
it.
Oh.
I'm going on Amazon.
Yeah, I mean, we definitely do recommend them. They're a lot of fun, and again, like the Hex Girls are just so iconic. And fingers crossed that Dawn and Velma get together in the 3rd book, because that would make all my dreams come true. But I guess we spoke briefly, and I think Smash presented Return to Zombie Island, which was the sequel to Zombie Island. And obviously the thing on people's minds after that, everyone kind of goes bonkers. Like, does this mean we're going to get a sequel to Witch's Ghost, or a sequel to Cyber Chase, or any of the other Scooby-Doo movies that are near and dear to people's heart? But I wanted to get your opinion on a Witch's Ghost prequel, and whether that could perhaps work better than a sequel, purely for the fact that maybe there's some history there to discuss beyond what the gang would do next with Ben Ravencroft or any of that.
Oh, that's interesting. So a prequel in terms of, would the Scooby Gang be in it?
They could be. I'm yet to come up with a concept of, why
I
they
mean, a
would
sequel
reference
that,
it.
yeah.
Are you thinking more like how Sarah Ravencroft was trapped in the book?
Yeah.
Kind of how that happened more, JB.
Yeah, or even...
And meeting Thorne's ancestors and stuff like that, and how she was a Wiccan and where...
Again, that's just like a Hex Girls movie, isn't it? They should just do that. It's a Hex
I was going to
Girls
say
movie.
that prequel could be
do.
the Hex Girls movie, because they're already there.
Oh,
that would be amazing. And I guess, kind of almost at the last few questions here. So, what would you say to, the people who still love this movie 20 years later? I mean, I'll admit I love the movie. It's absolutely incredible. One thing I will say is I would hate to almost see what they did to Zombie Island onto this movie. As much as I love it, I almost want to preserve it and keep it where it is, because I don't want them to be like, okay, well, Frolf was the first unmasking. The second one can be unmasked too. I don't want that. I don't want Warner Brothers to do that. I love this movie.
I don't either.
I leave it right where it is.
Millie, I agree 100%. I just, I wouldn't mind doing like a sequel where like Ravencroft, it comes back, whatever, definitely bring back characters and aspects from the original, but just leave the original alone, and because I didn't know they put out a reboot of Zombie Island, but it sounds, not that great.
Almost like a parody of the original.
Oh, okay. All right. Well,
It's that they go back to the island, but they don't realize that it's the same island for a long time. And then they start to see the zombies, they start to see the cat people, and it all turns out that it was just a movie, and they were just trying to like immerse themselves in this movie. And then they unmask all the zombies and all the cats, and
they were like trying to make a movie on the island about what had happened in the original Zombie Island movie. But the biggest problem is they've never aged. And so they had to kind of be like, why are we the same age, or even de-aged more or less, and we're coming back. So it's funny,
process.
Yeah.
So again, kind of like last questions, do you have any upcoming projects that you can share with us?
Yeah, I actually, well, this is funny because we're on animation right now. I am currently working, and this just kind of came out of the blue, but I'm having a lot of fun with it. I'm writing for another iconic character right now. I'm writing for Barbie.
Oh,
wow.
Oh my gosh. I used to love the Barbie movies when I was little. They were like my favorite thing.
This is a limited series. It'll be out next year. And it's called Barbie, We Can Be Anything. And it's kind of a time travel thing with the Barbies going back in time and trying to bounce around. And because you have two Barbies, you have Malibu Barbie and then you have Brooklyn Barbie now. My only complaint was Ken's not in it. But we're talking about another series that I might do maybe down the road that I would insist Ken be in. So
fair enough.
But yeah, so it'll be out next year, and it's called Barbie We Can Be Anything, and it's going to be on Netflix. And I'm having a blast. I haven't written animation since Mecha Menace. So I was a little reticent about, oh God, but I'm having a ball doing it. I'm writing like 3 episodes of it, and it's really fun.
I'm so happy to hear that. I used to watch all the Barbie movies when I was little. I think they used to be on I think in the UK the channel's Boomerang, and there was just so many of them. It used to be like a Saturday ritual for me on a Saturday morning. So
yeah, I mean I've just been immersing myself. In fact, I went to a Walmart, went into the Barbie section. I felt like a pedophile because I'm hanging out at the Barbie section.
I mean,
but this one actually is geared slightly older, which is a lot of fun too.
That's interesting. Did you see that they did a line of Daphne and Velma Barbies and
no, I didn't.
Shaggy and Fred Kens? Yeah. That'd be so interesting. Imagine because they've done like a Scooby-Doo Lego movie and a Scooby-Doo kind of puppet movie. It'd be interesting to see a Scooby-Doo Barbie and Ken movie.
Oh yeah,
I would watch that.
Yeah. For sure. But yeah, it's just we're just in the beginning stage. I mean, the scripts are getting nearing the end, but now the animation's starting and all that. So I know it's coming out in 2023 because that's all the references to the present is 2023. So
well, that's so exciting. Good for you. And is there anywhere people can keep up to date with you and your work?
Sure. My own website is rickcopp.com. And then so I keep everything up to date about book releases, and I'll probably put something about Barbie when it gets closer. And then also LeeHollisMysteries.com has all the book information and all the titles and the links to Amazon, So yeah, so those are the 2 websites, and I'm on Twitter, but I hardly ever tweet, so, and Instagram, and I hardly ever gram, whatever you call it.
Well, thank you so much. We'll be sure to include the links to both the websites and things in the description of the video below. And so yeah, I think that does it for the questions. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you. It's nice meeting you all.
So it's been so great to speak to you, and also to learn all of that. Again, like Milly was saying, all of your links will be found in the description down below, and we can't recommend them enough. Also, thank you to everyone who joined us today, including Smash, Rhianna, and of course you, Milly. Yeah, we can't forget you. And all the links to Smash's channel will be down there, and Rhianna's Instagram and Twitter or whatever, all that fun stuff. So yeah, lots of stuff in the description this week. Thank you so much everyone for joining, and we'll see you next time on the JayBee and Milly channel.